Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am David Jones-Gilardi, joined today by Cedric Linvin. Cedric,
hello, everybody. Happy to be there for another week and another workshop. Let's do that, David.
Woo! So, Cedric, what are we talking about today? What are we doing? I don't even know what we're doing. What are we doing?
I mean, it's pretty obvious looking at the title. You will implement a microservices using Spring Boot, Spring Data on top of Cassandra. And the best part of it, you don't have to install anything as usual, but we will explain everything to you in a minute. So let's get rolling.
Let's do it.
Okay, housekeeping. This is two moving heads, both on YouTube and Twitch. So we are there to answer your question mostly on the YouTube chat. Twitch is just there as a backup. The Twitch links is in the description, just as a backup. The issue with YouTube is when the live ended, you just cannot reach out to us anymore. The chat just stopped. And so we put in place a Discord room. So the Fellowship of the Rings. Here you do have the link bit.ly/Cassandra-workshop. We will answer your question there 24/7 almost. And guess what? In this room, we do have now 9.2K people. That just almost 10K people already. That's just amazing. When it comes to doing exercises, you will see that we will use software as a service tools and IDE in the cloud named GitPod. And as usual, we love these workshops to have as many interaction as possible.
That's right.
And so we will ask you quiz in the beginning and in the end. In the beginning, it just assess your level, what do you expect, are you mostly beginner, expert? And in the end, if you listen carefully what we say during the stream, we will have 5-question quiz, and if you are fast, you can win some swag. As we stated, this workshop will be a lot of hands-on. So if you are beginners, you can simply relax. I won't ask you to write some complex code, even if it's Java. Java is simple. No, you won't have any complex code to write. So if you are a beginner, watch me going through the exercise, redo the exercise at your pace, and get the most of the session by asking questions to me in the chat, David, or the crew that's monitoring the other question. If you are intermediate level, you can go to the GitHub repo, scroll the slide quickly, and start doing the exercise on your own. This should be more or less self-paced. And if you are expert, okay, so I will try to answer your question in the end. What you will learn today, it's new in Spring Data 3.0 and how to connect Spring Data to Astra, which is Cassandra as a service. Also, if you saw people joining in the middle of the live, it's not a big deal because the exercises are organized in branches on GitHub. And so you can simply go git check out part 3, and you're good to go for exercise 3. Even if you did not manage to do exercise 1 and 2, all the solutions are there, and you can move right away to the end of everything running if you want to. The last branches, it's called the end, and you do have everything implemented. So with that, I think we can go. So today we will create a very simple microservice. It is the TodoApplication. Okay, if you are in the JavaScript field, maybe you tend to learn a new framework to do MVC using the website todomvc.com, where you find, let's say, dozens and dozens of implementation of the same UI, which is a to-do list. So we will use that UI, implement a backend to interact with that using REST, Spring Data, and Cassandra. And we don't want you to install anything. So Cassandra will be Cassandra as a service in the cloud and provided by the Astra service, astra.datastax.com. It's free to use, no credit card, nothing. And we will see in the middle, it's very, very easy to instantiate and work with. When it comes to do some Java code, you can work locally, but you would need Maven, Java, and be already intermediate level. okay, for this 2-hour session, we would rather you using the GitPod, which is the IDE in the cloud. But if you feel confident to run that locally, there is nothing preventing you to do that. We simply won't provide you any support to run that exercise locally. It's always some issues if you are running Windows and Linux and Mac and all the small details. We just get lost answering those installation steps. We simply say, okay, use GitPod. You will have everything ready and running. And later, if you want to do the exercise on your laptop, you can. So today, we will first create the to-do app. Okay, run the existing, what it looks like, create an empty app, create the REST API, do some mocking from the REST API, so not the real implementation of the REST API. And then we will connect this API to Cassandra. And our goal for today is to be able to create a new task and see that the tasks are updated and edited live in Cassandra. Okay, so without further ado, the link of the GitHub repo for today is in the YouTube description. This is the first link. This is also available on screen.
I just dropped it as well.
Yes, and this is where I'm eating because I will do the exercise with you. So if I'm going to the GitHub repo, okay, workshop Spring Data Cassandra. By the way, look at the name of the organization, DataStax Academy. If you browse there, you see all the content for all our previous workshop. Come on. Okay. Okay. Well, unicorn.
Oh, unicorn! We got a unicorn.
What's happening? We're just over. Yeah. DDoS on GitHub. Okay. So DataStax Academy, see, we do have dozens and dozens of workshops. So on, machine learning, reactive, Kubernetes, Cassandra, Pulsar, Spring
There's
Data,
an intro to Cassandra in there for those of you who are new to Cassandra as well.
Yeah, there are a lot. As a matter of fact, next week we will do Jamstack for the JavaScript folks, and it will be also here. So what I would like you to do first is go there and launch GitPod. So simply right-click the button, open that in a new tab. And so it will open an IDE in the cloud for you. Okay, let's see.
And if you've not used GitPod before, it is totally normal for it to take a minute or two, right? It's got to pull Docker images and some resources. It's doing that all up in the cloud though. But yeah, expect it to take a minute or two. Yeah,
the cloud IDE is really a Docker image that you will pull, open, and we also run some pre-build, as you can see on my screen. And pre-build is really some Maven command to initialize the project. So see, I have done nothing, and I do have a terminal there ready to go. Okay, let me put that bigger.
Yeah, we definitely need it bigger.
Okay. Okay, what about now? Is it big enough?
Maybe a little bit more. And then for those of you who are watching, give us a thumbs up, as we zoom in, because obviously as he's doing things in a terminal, we want you to be able to see and read what he's doing. Let us know if it's working for you, if you need it zoomed in a little bit more.
Okay, so simply put, during the time it's starting, so GitPod is an IDE that already provide, so Maven is there, Java is there, NPM is there, Python is there, Go is there. So there are a ton of tools ready to go for you. As you can see, it's based on VS Code. And of course, you can run VS Code extension as well. So for these hands-on, we will use the SpringBoot extension, the Lombok extension, and SpringBoot tools. Okay, it's the auto-save is selected by default. So when you edit some piece of code, it will be automatically saved. So that's pretty neat as well.
And we did get a whole set of thumbs up, so it looks like the size is good, or at least the font size and everything. So okay. I think we're good there.
Cool. So I will, when it comes to do the hands-on, I will try to say as much as possible on this screen. just to avoid you to open 20 tabs on your browser. You probably already have one for us on the YouTube. And so if we can limit the number of windows you open, it's better. Okay, so if you look at the README, so as you can see, the README has been opened with a preview on the top of the page. And so here you can see expected output. So far, so good. And so just simply tell you that GitPod provides you everything. And so there are a command line named GP for GitPod. And the first command line I can ask you to type is GP URL 1990. So not all ports are open on the platform. And so if you want to access the 8080 port, you need to use this URL. So when we will start an application listening on port 8080, to access this application, you will use this public URL, okay? GP URL 8080, that gives you the public URL to access the 8080 port. Okay, and now they ask me, let's move to part 1. And so I will do a little bit of intro, but this is how you move from one step to another. So it was like the getting started. And if I do git checkout part 1, I will check out the branch part 1. And you see the README has been refreshed with the content of part 1, and I can start doing exercise 1 if I want to. Okay, so let's see. I will wait for your thumb up to see if you were able to open GitPod, do the small GP URL 8080, and git checkout part 1.
This is always so suspenseful right here. We're waiting for the thumbs up.
Yeah, you know. And the GitPod guys just are calling DataStax right now, saying, "Hey guys, what are you doing?"
Yeah, we have definitely gotten a phone call here or there between Katacoda and GitPod and others. All right, I am starting to see some thumbs up come in. And give everyone another moment here. Yeah.
Okay, so for intermediate level, again, you can start doing the exercise one by one. Those are self-service. I will simply go back to basics and explain what we will do. Okay.
I think we also got some, oh God, what is that? I'm going to age myself right now. What is that called? What is it? Dapping? The thing?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? We have a couple dapping ghosts.
Yeah.
On top of the thing. I've never seen that one. That's kind of a fun one. Thank you for that, Travel and Living. Thank you.
Yeah, so GitPod is just great. Yeah, I really love it. And if you really want to dig more into GitPod and you already have some experience, go to .gitpod folder in the repo, and you will see all the settings. I do have some .gitpod.yaml, .gitpod.dockerfile, and it will show you everything that I did to have the workspace open exactly as I expect when you simply click the button. Okay, so I already introduced you a little bit about TodoMVC and Todo-Backend. TodoMVC, the reference website to show you how to implement this reference application in multiple JavaScript languages. Now, Todo-Backend is just the same things, but for the backends, okay? So we want to create a REST API to make the Todo web UI working. Okay, and so on TodoBackend.com, you also have multiple implementation of the same API. And what it's neat with TodoBackend.com is it provides you some specification tester and client tester. So we can implement something with a TDD approach, test-driven development. This guy will give us the test to pass, and from that we will create the app. So I told you about spec runner and client runner. You will see in exercise part 1. I will give you the link to go there, but you will see that it's just Todo-Backend API route, target test route, and we will be able to test this API. If everything is okay, you would have all the tasks in your Cassandra instance in an hour, about an hour. Okay, so test running application. So let's do part 1, and only then I will go to Spring. So this is part 1, and for part 1, I really want you simply to go and do part 1, step 1. Run existing application.
Hey, Cedric, while you're here in GitPod, I saw one question come in from one of our friends in Discord. That was Geminin79. Is having a hard time opening up the port. Could you show real quick how to open a port and get the URL there in GitPod?
Oh, so by default, all ports are closed. I can set up in gitpod.yaml that I do want a port open in the beginning, so 8080. So it's not something you have to do. I did it when I opened the workspace. What I ask you to do in the command line is just some URL. So gp for gitpod, URL 8080. And this is a way to show you what is a public URL for port 8080. Port 8080 is still closed, but there are some routing mechanisms inside GitPod that will move from this public URL, which is port 8080, port 80. As you can see, there are no port here, and it will map that to your app. But as of now, there is nothing running.
Right, we haven't done it yet.
If I click there to open, it just, okay, port not found, didn't respond. Of course, there is nothing running. Hopefully, we will start something and it will change. Okay, so part 1, step 1, run the existing To-Do app. So I told you about To-Do MVC. Let's move. I can open To-Do MVC in a new tab just for you. I told you, let's pick, I will hide you, David, sorry. Let's pick, I don't know, view.js, whatever you like. Go there and task 1, task 2, task 3. So this is the UI you want to have, and this is To-Do MVC. Okay, I can close enough of To-Do MVC. Second is To-Do-Backend. Okay, To-Do-Backend, run an API. Okay, so you can go to To-Do-Backend. What is interesting, if people that already implemented this API in other languages provide you a public URL to invoke this app. So for instance, if I try to open this on a dedicated link, see, I do have a web page there. The application is running, but as of today, there is no way to access that. So I can also show the Quarkus one. And so see here, it seems to already have some task there. So what I will do.
And sorry, Cedric, something to maybe point out about To-Do MVC and To-Do Backend, right? Because we do have a question over on YouTube from Jasper, said, well, what are we using for the front end? So the cool thing with both To-Do MVC and To-Do Backend is that you get to choose, right? They are example frameworks, reference frameworks that are built like To-Do MVC, right? You could have picked Vue, Angular, React, whatever, right? You can pick all sorts of different platforms that you want to implement the front end in, and then you just go with that one. So it's really nice if you're learning new languages and such. And the To-Do Backend one, I don't know if you've got the screen up, Cedric, but the amount of languages that is available for it is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so the answer is whatever you want to pick. I believe though, Cedric, in the workshop, you have one already chosen.
Yes. So, I mean, for the workshop in To-Do Backend, so let's go to To-Do Backend. Let's see. I will show you. In To-Do Backend, okay, not only you do have all the implementation available, order by topic and such, but as I told you, there are some spec runner. So if I open the spec runner, this guy will test your endpoint and see if it's okay or not. The endpoint is open and public. Okay, we are in demo mode, test mode, so we won't authenticate, we won't secure the endpoint. It's not part of the specification of Todo-Backend. But not only a spec runner, but also a client. And so if you go to, let's see, it was the spec runner, but if you change spec by client, this is your client, okay? So the client is provided by Todo-Backend. Again, you don't have to know which one you will use. And if you pick some existing backend that do have the API running, okay, I will go there. And now, see, I can test. And now I'm using an existing public API somewhere on internet to work. What I would like now is connect this UI to your environment. So let's see how we do. Okay. So step 1B, test Todo-Backend, test the spec runner against one of these existing API. So I will pick number 2. Okay, so I will simply open this guy. So it's, and this is exactly what I did. I can either go to here, so Todo-Backend, spec, and provide the URL. It will start testing. So you can have some issue here. And you know what? It's because we are all testing the same nodes at the same time. So you can have some issue. So you can either open this to-do app as I did, like that, or you can, I do have issue because this is some blocking on the Brave browser, never mind. So, or you can use another command from GitPod, which is gp preview to open a web page. And if I do gp preview, it will open the page on the left side, and I can start doing stuff. But seems like I do have an URL, cannot read property of define. Get, yes, so that's funny, like we all working with the same endpoint, and if I try to, to execute the code, I can some error because probably others people are trying to do the same. But anyway, here you do have the ID. This is the unit test we need to start working. Okay, let's move on. Expected output. If you were alone working on that, this is what you get. But here you can have issue because we are invoking the same endpoint. Okay, which is true for the test runner is also true for the client. And so if I went there already. So if you go there, open the client instead of the spec. Now you do have you do have a task that's working. Okay, move on. Okay, link to web 123 123 blah 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 are the tasks created by the test runner. So later today, when you will have your own app running, blah 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 would be the value you will have in your database. Okay, moving on, and I will stop there and go back to slide a little bit, just to give you an overview what is Spring. Okay, as of now, is really showing you what we will do. We did not code anything yet. We will implement this to-do app. So Spring is really, if you want to start a Java career, this is the framework to go. It's wiring most of application as of today. To be honest, it's by far the most famous Java framework out there. And so it's all starting with the pattern inversion of control. The ID, the core ID of Spring is really you provide multiple implementations of the same interface. Okay, so here I do have an interface greeting service. And I do have an implementation, greeting service implementation. But I can also have a second implementation of the same interface, okay? And at runtime, when I need to work with greeting service, I don't care about the implementation. This is the job of Spring to bring me the proper implementation. And this is what we call inversion of control. Now we are only working with the interface, and you can change the implementation if you want to. It introduced some decoupling, some loose coupling in between Java components. It was really the key that start Spring. As a matter of fact, the first name of Spring was Interface 21, released in 2004. So I was there. I think I started using Spring with Spring.jar, which was a version 1, very, very early. But Spring, due to its huge success, build more and more libraries, more and more components to help you building apps. So it's building some microservice environments, reactive environment, cloud, everything you need to expose a web app can be the API, so REST API, and can also be controllers like model view controller. You want to do a full web app with also views, Spring MVC can help, and even more. And if I simply click on one of those, let's say microservices, under the hood you will have dozens and dozens of smaller libraries to do monitoring of the microservice, to do security of the microservice, to do data access for your microservice. And it's all Spring something. Spring Starter Actuator, SpringBoot, Spring Data, Spring Context, Spring Core. So really, Spring is really the toolbox that most people use when they start building Java application. Spring is not the only one. Okay, we do have newcomers that getting some tractions like Micronaut or Quarkus. Spring is still leading. Okay, and in the Java world, the specification are the G2E, okay, Java 2 Enterprise, and stuff like microservice, like Micronaut implements those G2E specification. Spring is another beast. It's really using his own interfaces, his own stuff. All right, so enough talking. Let's move. Let's see what we can do. When it comes to microservices, a microservices is really a component that do have its own runtime. So you don't need any application server anymore. So Tomcat, WebSphere, WebLogic, all these big application server running multiple applications at the same time, we don't do that anymore. We are creating a component that is a standalone. It's not deployed as a WAR anymore, but as a standalone jar, and everything is included. And the added value is there is no more coupling in between applications because they are not running in the same application server. And it's easy to scale. I mean, you want multiple instances of your microservice, simply start multiple times the app, you're good to go. Okay. So SpringBoot is the runtime to create some microservice with Spring. In this runtime, multiple layers. So persistent layer to access the databases, presentation layer, which is API, controller, all the way to interact with your users or consumers. And in between, this is what we call the business layer, where you do all the business logic, aggregation, composition. And at some point, Spring is such an advanced framework that everything related to database will be handled by Spring. Everything related to the REST API will be handled by Spring. And now your only job is to implement the business logic and the business code. And this is one of the reasons Spring is so popular. The fact that it provides you a lot of way for you to make your job easier. Okay, so in the Spring Boot world, there are really two stacks. So the traditional stacks, Spring MVC using Servlet. So with Spring Security, MVC, and Spring Data. And there is also a full reactive stack. Okay, we won't cover the reactive stack today, but say you can also have some API reactive using Webflux, security reactive, Spring Data reactive, including a connectivity to Cassandra. So reactive really means there is nothing blocking anymore, but it has also some requirements. If you start an application as reactive, any blocking call is now forbidden. Using Spring Webflux, if you happen to use any blocking call, Spring Webflux won't even start telling you, I detect some blocking code in your application, and I cannot be fully asynchronous, and so I cannot, have the performance you expect from me. Today, super easy, super simple, traditional stack. We will use Spring Boot, MVC, Spring Data. And so if you look at the right part of the screen, you see the layers that you will find in Boot, which is controller, this is our API. Services are the business layer where you want to compose. Repository are really the persistent layer, data access. Connectivity is really the drivers that will enable connectivity to the database and database. And this is our canvas, our map for today. And when I talk about controller, I will light the controller box and so forth and so on.
Hey, Cedric, we have a question from Arun over in YouTube. And Arun asks, in case of a standalone Spring application, no need to deploy, does that mean it contains a container within the app? So does it increase the size?
True. Yes, the size of the jar is really about 100 megabytes. It's a fat jar, a big jar.
Yeah.
It includes all your third-party dependencies bring by Maven, but also indeed a runtime. And so the runtime is by default, I think it's still Tomcat embedded, but you can also use Undertow or even Jetty to host your standalone app. But yes, it's a fat jar with a main, and so the runtime is included indeed.
Cool. Good question. Thanks, Arun.
Very good question. Okay, so we did the part 1.1. Let's do part 1.2. So moving on here. Here, let's drop this preview. Can I just close the preview like that? No, I want to close my, closing the preview. Okay, and let's go here with create your Spring Boot application. Spring provide a super useful website, start.spring.io. And through the web UI, you can set up the app you want to build, and you will simply download a zip with running. The app is ready to run, have all the dependencies ready to go, and this is your starting point. And even better, you can create some custom links. So this is what I did today. And so if you click on these links, it will open start.spring.io and have already filled all the value for your app. Okay, so group ID, artifact ID, name, which are the Maven coordinates, description, package name, the JDK you want to use. So hopefully now everybody have moved to JDK 11. I know it's not the case, but JDK 8 is not supported anymore. By the way, I know I'm older. JDK 17, the new LTS, will be released soon, if not already. Okay, so yeah, 11 should be the way to go in 2021, at least. Okay, so for dependencies in the Spring Boot ecosystem, it's all came as starter. If I want monitoring, Spring Boot starter monitoring. If I want security, Spring Boot starter security. The monitoring is called SpringBoot Starter Actuator, but never mind, you got the ID. You need the features, try to look at SpringBoot Starter, the features. So, and if I say add dependency, and you see all the flavors, all the technical capabilities that Spring is able to offer out of the box, okay? So web, template engine, remember I told you about MVC, so you can use Timeleaf, FreeMarker, Mustache, Groovy, security, including Okta, SQL, NoSQL, and guess what? Today we will use some NoSQL stuff because we will use Apache Cassandra. And so if you look what I imported, Spring Data for Cassandra, SpringBoot Tools, which is the component that will restart automatically my app when I edit my code, just to avoid to each time stop, restart, stop, restart. It will be done by the dev tools. Spring Web, we want to expose a API, a REST API. So the REST controller are part of Spring Web. So you need to import Spring Boot Starter Web. Lombok is a Java library, not really related to Spring, but it's a nice tooling to avoid you creating all the getters and setters and constructors and all this boilerplate code you need when we deal with plain old Java object. And the actuator is the monitoring stuff. So you can simply generate and it will download the zip. But guess what? I did that work for you. And when you open the repo, this is exactly the content that you do have. It's the zip that I've downloaded and I unzip there. So this work you don't have to do, but if tomorrow you need to build a new Spring Boot app using Cassandra, start with the link. You will get your from scratch sample ready to go. Okay, so now the sample code is there. We have downloaded, open, so we can start the app. I told you the app should be ready to go. So I have 2 lines here. So I will move to the proper folder and I will start the app. Okay, I see already it's in red. You will get an error. Don't worry, it's expected. Okay. Because it's the first time we are running a Maven command, Maven will have to download some third-party dependencies. And so it will start and say, yeah, I cannot start. And now you told me, what the heck? You just told me that I can simply download that app and it should be working. Yes, it should. Now, Spring is all about convention. So he tried to initialize the application as best as the best it can. And so in the main class, so this is Todo-Backend Spring, you do have SpringBoot application, which is the annotation to tell, okay, this is my main class, this is the one you need to start. Well, this guy is pretty clever. He will look into the class path. And because in the class path, he will find Cassandra auto configuration and Cassandra data auto configuration, it will start to connect to Cassandra right away with the default values. And default values to connect to Cassandra is localhost 9042. And so the error message you get is simply put, I cannot access to Cassandra locally because this app is using all the default values. So what we need to do first is to say, okay, for now, please do not try to connect to Cassandra by yourself. Let's just start with the empty app. And so what we ask you to do here is go there and simply update that annotation to say, okay, exclude Cassandra data and Cassandra auto configuration, okay? All right, and now if I run again the app, okay.
By the way, while we're waiting for that, Cedric, Avanesh in YouTube asks, I missed how the Spring initializer was brought into GitPod. If you don't mind, can you please tell me how?
Okay, we did not show how. I simply tell you that this step to download the zip and unload the zip in GitPod, I did that for you, even before starting the workshop. What I did is I downloaded this zip before the workshop start, and I commit this default project in the main branch of my GitHub repo. And so when GitPod initialize, all the sources in this GitPod repo will be available in the GitPod. And so this is why all this source code is already there. I simply did not do that in front of you, downloading the zip, unzip, and commit. But having this sample project just coming from nowhere would have been a bit surprising. So I simply show you how I did to have this default class. Okay, so seems like the app is starting. Look at that. I do not have any error anymore. And so what I can do, I can open a new terminal, and I can try to open now the port 8080. Okay, so remember, so you can remember GP URL 8080. So I could go there, and now, okay, it's written white label error, but there is no more something telling you that the 8080 did not respond. 8080 responds now, but you do have an empty page, which is a bit annoying because the empty page in Spring Boot is really this white error label. Okay, and this is exactly what we want to change. So I will stop my app and I will move to the next step, which is I don't like this white label error page. So let's see what we can do. Yeah, so I open a new tab just to open that URL. You can also use GP preview, and your page will just show up on the panel on the side. I will do that right after that. Okay, so, well, I will simply create a controller, an API. I will create Hello World API. So in the workshop, I will create a new folder, Hello. Okay, and I will create a new file, and I will call that file, what is your name? Okay, Hello World controller rest. Okay, so let's do that. New file, hello world controller.java. Okay, and I will, just close that. Close. I will simply copy paste the code. Copy, paste. All right. Okay, so now if you look at that, I do have at the root of my application / I do have hello world. So now if I start my app, so let's see, I start my app on this tab. So let's Spring Boot. And here I want to open the preview. So it will be GP preview. Where are you? GP preview. Okay, so my app is running. So let's now open the app on the left part. Okay, I do have Hello World. So now I do have, it's still an empty app using Spring Boot, but now I do have a default REST API, which is simply Hello World. Okay, I will pause here and give you a couple of minutes to try to catch up, okay? Again, I probably move fast, but as I told you, if you're intermediate level, go do the exercise at your pace. If you are a beginner, simply watch me doing the exercise.
And for those of you who want to take a little bit more time with it and everything, the workshop is designed to be totally self-service, right? So you can then follow up and do this at your own pace if you so choose afterward.
Yes. If we did our job correctly, you can do this workshop self-service. And oh, by the way, the stream that we are doing now is recorded.
Yeah.
You can use the same link tomorrow and you will have the recording of the session. So you can pause the video and do the exercise at your pace. And so this is it for part 1. So what is asked in the end is move to part 2 to just say, okay, check out part 2.
So, hey, Cedric, question for you from Jasper and YouTube. Can we use Kotlin instead of Java for exposing REST endpoints on top of Cassandra?
Of course.
Yeah, as a matter of fact.
Yes, of course. Yeah, of course we can. So there is really no difference. In a Kotlin-based application, you can use third-party libraries also in Java. Yeah. Okay. This is simply the way to expose the API that is just different. It's all about func, all the keywords from the Kotlin language. But also Spring is pretty famous to try to move from Java to Kotlin some of the SpringBoot module just to ease anything. I told you about Lombok that helps you remove all the boilerplate code. Kotlin is all about that. When you start implementing in Kotlin, you just, oh wow, getters, setters are all done for you, and the code is much more. It's much more small.
And something to just add on to what Jasper said there, that last part for exposing REST endpoints on top of Cassandra. So something really cool, right? Is with today when we use Astra, the self-service, the managed, the cloud managed Cassandra that we're going to use today, the free tier or any of the tiers, you'll see in there, and we can maybe bring this up once we get there. There are REST. You have REST endpoints, you have GraphQL, you've got a document API, and that's actually powered by Stargate.io, which is itself another open source project that I believe this EP is actually out there for open source Cassandra, right? Or no, actually, can you use that today? You can use that today. Is that correct, Cedric? Stargate with open source Cassandra? Yeah.
Yes, of course we can.
So Stargate enables REST endpoints, GraphQL, and a document API for Cassandra. So we're going to get that as just part of Astra because it's already built into it, but you could hook that up to your open source Cassandra. So you wouldn't really have to implement those on your own if you didn't want to. You could just use Stargate to do it. So I'll grab the Stargate.io link and drop it for you so you can take a look at that.
Yeah, sure. And this is also part of the slides in the end, just to show what we can do. Okay, so I see some just comment, like say in the README, they mentioned step 2. Yeah, maybe I'm surprised. I really see that we check out part 1 and part 2. Maybe this is just these steps that are misleading or the number that are not correct. But I will check that. I will review things after the workshop. Okay, so let's move on. It was create a Spring Boot app and have the controller ready, just a REST API to say hello world. Okay. Now we need to move from this hello world to the real APIs, which are create a to-do, delete a to-do, post, patch, update a to-do. And so you will simply make this hello class evolve to match the path and what are the operations needed. Okay. So today what we will do is we will use Spring Boot with multiple layers. So a layer to expose the API, Spring MVC, and the persistence layer. So of course, we target the persistence layer to talk to Cassandra. But let's first have the app working with to-do list in memory. And so to work with memory, we use the hash map object in the Java world. And so we will create the API, and we will make sure that this API is working, but is working in memory. And this is part 2. So if I go to the README in part 2, look at that. So first, he asked me to create a CRUD controller. So if I go to an existing if I go to an existing API, hopefully it's working. So see here, I do have the sample response from the API. So the API we need to build need to answer something like that. Okay, so I can even open that in a new tab just to have this formatting done automatically by a JSON view, which is a plugin in my browser. So okay, so a to-do has a URL, a title, completed, and an order. All right. So now we know what the bin should look like. So the first things to do then is to create a bin called to-do URL UID title complete order 0. Okay, so let's create a new folder to-do. Okay, DataStax workshop to-do. Okay, and I will create a new file to-do.java. Okay, and I will simply provide this class. And if you are already Java, if you are already some experience with Java, see, there is no more getter, setter, constructor. Just providing the data annotation from Lombok make your life easier. And it's even working in this cloud environment because I have wired the Lombok VS Code extension already. Okay, so this is a to-do. We also want to create the controller, I mean, the API. So now in the same folder, I will create this class. And of course, I don't expect you to create the full REST controller in 10 minutes. Okay, there are some, let's say 5 to 10 operations to implement. So what I give you instead is just the file that is already wired, and I want you to implement each operations. So I go there, and so now what I would like to do is see, okay, so this is the get, which is find all to do. As of now, it's returning null. I want you to find a proper data structures in Java in memory that would store these to do and help us create the API without any database. So we will use a hash map, so private map the string to use the UID, maybe just UUID because it's and I will use, let's say, to-dos, and I will want to do a new concurrent. Yeah, it's a bit hash map. Okay. Okay, so this is just a map, key value, UID, and to-do. And first, find all. Well, find all is not difficult. I will simply say, I want all the values, okay? And I want that as a string. Okay, this one is pretty easy. Yeah, I do have find all. Cool. What else? Next is find by ID. And you give me a UID as a string. Okay, and you expect to have a to-do or probably have an error if it's not there. So you will say, if to-dos dot get, and so it's a UID. So let's say UUID dot from string the UID. Okay, let's say contain key. Okay, if the guy is there, I will return it. So I will to-do dot get okay, and so on and so forth. And if it's not there, you will simply return like response. Yes, let's say response dot, let's say not found. sc not found, yeah, something like that. And we can find the constructor to create this response entity. And see, moving forward, we can do that for every single function. So we can create a new one, we can update an existing one, we can delete one, and each time, oh, see, this is how to invoke. So the not found, I will probably do something like that. And instead that I will say not found. Okay, not found. And for this guy, is need a response entity. So I will simply probably say response entity awk and just provide new response entity dot awk, and dot body, I want that guy. And just all together, we did find by ID and we did find all. But moving on, of course, the purpose today is not you to do all the operation within these in-memory data structures. We simply don't have time to do that. You can try on your own properly. If you look at the instruction, of course, I've give you the solution. So give me show the solution, and so I can open the solution, and let's see. Get to do not found build response. Yeah, not bad. I mean, the solution is cleaner than my solution, but it's already something working. So let me copy the content of this file in my. Okay. All right. And here I have implemented the specification. Okay, he's not happy. T.set URL. So, okay, yeah. To do like that is not enough. I mean, it should be, or I probably should compile. But you know what? I will also pick the to-do class. So let's go here, preview there. This is my to-do. Okay. So it's also have maybe some, oh, set URL. Oh yeah, okay, I got it. The idea is if you look at a sample response coming from an existing application, let's see, where do I have that? We did that together. Oh, it's there, right? See, I do have a URL block. And so the URL needs to be wired to the environment where we are. Anyway, so we do have the controller, we do have the bin. So I should be able to start the app, finger crossed, and run the specification against this guy. And if everything's okay, it should pass. Okay, so let's see.
Here I was giving you a hard time, Cedric, and I was messing with you, and then I realized I muted my mic because I had lawn people outside and you couldn't hear me.
Good for you.
Right?
Next time I will mute you.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, for instance, if I want to list all the to-dos, it's empty, okay? And if I want to create a to-do, I will just execute the command. So see, curl is available. Curl is available as well in the GitPod. Okay. So read the to-do. Okay. But that's weird because I should have a to-do already. So let's see. Maybe, okay, yeah, I need to refresh like that. So what I did, I use curl to create a new to-do, and I then invoke the endpoint to list all the to-do. And as you can see, I do have one, which is sample task. Okay, so, but we don't like to interact with curl to test some endpoint. But see, here you do have a sample for every single create, read, update, delete operation. Now, what we want to do is really execute the specification. So remember this specification tool, okay? This guy, we want to provide the URL of your application running. So to have the name of the application running, GP URL 8080, okay? And the path is like /API/v1/todo. So if I go there, / I think it's v1 API todo, right? So let's see. API/v1/todo. API/v1/todo with the S.
Magenta toucan. Nice.
Okay, let's see. And I still, okay, not bad.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so seems like my in-memory implementation is working pretty good. And if I go back here and list my to-do, now I do have multiple. Those are the sample tests that is provided by this test runner. So not bad. So now if I move from the spec to the client, see, I do have blah, blah, blah. So if I add a new task, Cedric, and I go here and update the task I do have in memory, I should have my Cedric, blah, blah, Cedric is there, okay? So we have just created a REST API that work only in memory using SpringBoot and using a web UI, provided by Todo-Backend. So now the time has come to change from this in-memory implementation to a real database. And if you understand the inversion of control principle for Spring, what we will do is we will stay with these API layers and we will change the way we do the persistence. Okay, so let's see. Test your controller, I did that already. Play with your implementation, I did that as well. And so I'm done with part 2 and I can move to part 3. But before that, first I will wait for you, but also I will do a little bit of slide.
Yeah, and Robert Lynn over on YouTube. Oh, were you just about to?
No, say it.
Yeah. So when we do these in Astra, they literally take like 2 minutes, maybe. We also, before we do these workshops, we might pre-provision some things to prepare for that. But no, it's seriously fast with Astra. That's kind of one of the reasons why we do it with these. So let's see.
Yeah, but the point of Loberlin is really to say, okay, if you are done with part 2, don't wait. Go to part 3 and start create the database.
I missed that. Good point. Yes, good point.
Distributed the database creation over a 10-minute period. It's better than everybody go at the same time create the AstraDB.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I totally missed his point.
But it's a good one. But as David stated, we know that we will run those workshops. We anticipated, let's say, 120 people live attendee with us. 50% will do the exercise. So the engineering team has already, 50 to 100 Astra instance pre-baked for that to be as fast as possible during the workshop. So thank you to the Astra engineering team. I know that they are watching us on every stream. So yeah, thank you to be there and make those workshops successful. Okay, and when you're done with part 2, please give me a thumbs up. I know I was fast, but in the end, look at that. I simply copy-paste the solution, and so should you. And it's pretty cool. You do have a working app, and you simply have created a single class. Now, if you cannot cope with the pace, check out part 3, and you will be exactly at the same pace as me. I forgot to say that, but when I moved to part 2 to part 3, all my changes are dropped. because I use some pretty effective Git command, which is git fetch all, git reset hard. So that's simply, drop everything that you did and start fresh with the branch start for. So, if you can keep up, as I told you, it's not a big deal. Just go to the bottom and move to the next part.
And I am seeing a couple thumbs up. Just a couple, though.
Yeah.
I think we should probably wait for a couple more.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we are doing good on time, so we should take our time. Because as of today, it's only SpringBoot, so we still need to talk about Cassandra and Spring Data.
So Tony Matthew in YouTube just asked a great question. What will be the value of Cassandra.contact points here to connect Spring Data and Cassandra?
Oh, that's a good point, and we explained that. But in Astra, it's software as a service in the cloud. And so instead of providing a contact point, you will provide another parameter named Secure Connect Bundle. It's a zip file, and in the zip file you will have certificates that will open the connection between you and Astra instance. You need these zip and strong authentication using certificate because you want a two-way communication between you and Astra just to do all the magic that the drivers tends to do. Load balancing, health check, paging. If you need to open the HTTP each time and close each time, yeah, it's slow. But with this Secure Connect bundle, the SQL session will be open and stay open, and you can do the execute as you would do if you target a contact point and local Cassandra. So it will be left empty contact point. You don't need a contact point. The only parameters you need to access Astra are the Secure Connect bundle, a username, and a password. And just saying, pay attention. Maybe it's part of the question in the end. Just saying. So use IntelliJ EDA. That's a good point. You can use that. And we're just starting the project to integrate more Astra with IntelliJ. It will be kind of the data grid stuff where you can navigate through the table in IntelliJ. It's coming this year. Yeah, Tony, no problem.
All right, I'm seeing a couple more thumbs up.
Now we do have effective CRUD. So congrats. I know I'm moving fast, so if you can keep up, great.
All right, more and more thumbs up coming in. Cool.
Yeah, so
good.
Congrats, Rushi, Jasbir. Cool.
Wonderful.
Tony, of course. Tony, done. Oh, Tony won't already put some contact points, so he's on top of. But that's a very good question. Okay, so let's say 2 more minutes. Let's at 20. Let's move on. Very 2 slides, even maybe 1 slide, and back to the exercise with part 3. See, today is more hands-on than theory. In the end, we give you tons of resources for you to check this out, know more advanced samples, or simply tutorials and back to the basics, what is Cassandra and such. Oh, lo. Wow, that's just a rain. Oh, everybody pick a thumbs up now. Maybe they are not ready. They simply want me to move.
Like, keep going, Cinder. Come on, just
Keep
thumbs up the
talking,
dude. He'll go.
Yeah. Stop talking. Come on, move. Show us some stuff. All right. Okay, so I feel that I can move on. So you do have the to-do app working. You match the specification, but it's still working in memory. And what we need to do is simply update the to-do list repository Java class to now use Cassandra. But I don't want to install Cassandra. So I will show you how to spawn a Cassandra instance in Astra, astra.datastax.com, which is Cassandra as a service in the cloud. And because it's software as a service, we are running the database for you.
That's right.
So as a developer, it's pretty neat because you simply click a button and you do have the running database. The service is free. Okay, you don't have to provide any credit card. You can even use your GitHub account. You go there and there is a free tier with 5 gigabytes of data, and it's free forever. You never provide any credit card. Now, of course, on the Astra platform, you also have other tiers. If you want to scale, the strength of Cassandra is ready to scale out. So if you want multiple nodes or nodes in multiple regions over the world, you will use extra tiers. But you know what?
Oh, go ahead, Cedric. Go ahead.
No, because you attend this session, and if you stay up to the end, I can give you $300 of credit on the Astra platform. So stay tuned. It will be probably 2 minutes in the end that will drop the link to get that credit.
And, I don't know if you're planning to do it, Cedric, but if you've already got Astra up, maybe it would be good at some point for Jasper and others who were looking at that to just show, well, how do you get the REST endpoint? How do you get the GraphQL endpoint? It's seriously easy, and it's already there. So when you spin up your Astra database, you've already got the Stargate stuff.
When I spawn my database.
Okay, cool. So when he goes to spawn it, so for those who are interested in that, just keep a watch out. It is ridiculously easy. I found that, I actually like working with the drivers and such, but I could just spin up and use REST or GraphQL or something. I don't even have to worry about the drivers anymore for my Cassandra implementation. So it's really kind of awesome.
Yeah, so, and Jack already answered the question of Avinash, but if you want to use A tier or B, C, D tiers in Astra, you provide a credit card, and a debit credit card will work. Yes, it will. And if you do have the 300 credits, you won't even get charged until you reach your credit limit. So, when you register the CB, it will, ask for $0 just to validate that the debit card is okay, and you will be good to go. Yeah, that's super easy. Okay, so, but David, you already said that multiple times. Astra runs Cassandra, but not only. On top of Cassandra, our goal is to make you Cassandra as simple as possible. So not only we are running the software for you, we are also providing tools like the SQL console. We will use that in a minute to create tables, data, interact, and also API. If you are JavaScript developer, Python developer, maybe you don't like to use the drivers. You would like to invoke API. And so there are a proxy on top of Cassandra, and the proxy is called Stargate, open source, stargate.io. You can run that on your local Cassandra. Then you do have REST API, GraphQL API, document API. So you can also read and write JSON from Cassandra now using this proxy. Pretty cool. Loader, and also some APIs for DevOps. So if you are the kind of people that like automate, Ansible, Terraform, API. So there is a DevOps API for you to automate the provisioning of an Astra instance. Okay, so moving on, database, let's go. So part three is really creating your database. So go to Astra, okay. So either astra.datastax.com or use the link in, probably use this link, okay, click there, and create your database. If you already have one database, create a new key space and start working with that. If you already have the database, because you can only have a single free instance. Do not use the serverless, please. It's still in beta, so you can run into trouble. It's a beta features, so keep it free. The first one is totally okay. So free, select a cloud provider. So because it's a free tier, only Google Cloud would work. And the reason is, under the hood, AWS and Azure are more expensive. So for the free tier, pick Google Cloud. So select a region. So the region that is the closest to you, that will have the latency between you and, but you know what? It will be the closest to GitPod, because this is GitPod that will run stuff. I don't know where your GitPod, so you can pick any of those two. It doesn't really matter.
And Tony Matthew again in YouTube has a question: is Astra free tier free for 1 year or no limit? No limit. It's indefinite. That's free forever. Matter of fact, a really nice way and a fun way to use the free tier, especially for development, when you're experimenting, and let's say you're just figuring out your data model, or you're just getting the plumbing hooked up to your app or whatever, then you can spin up those free tier databases as much as you want. And even once you already have a database created, you can create n number of key spaces from that point on, right? So if you have multiple projects or something, you can totally do that, but there is no limit. So have fun.
Yes, exactly. No limit, have fun. And so we are creating to-do key space. You can provide your own keys, no problem. But then when we do the exercise, you would have to set up the app to use your keys. If you use the same keys as me, when you check out the branch, it's already set up. Okay, so to-do key space, to-do user. Okay, to-do user and to-do password. Let's see. So the values are provided in the README, of course. Okay, and then create a database. So let's see if Mr. Lin was okay, and I would need 3 minutes for my database to be okay. So as you can see, the status of my database is pending, and I do have an orange dot over here. And as soon as the DB is ready, it will switch to active mode. Okay, so it's starting, losing at the, okay, it's pending. All right. And so, yeah, okay, next step is to download this zip. All right, okay. So my database is active. So I did not measure, but I feel it less than a minute. So I can either click on the database name here or connect. Okay. So here you do have the summary of your database. So it's a 5 GB, free forever. This is the cluster ID, my username. I use GCP, and this is my key space. And as David stated, we can use multiple key spaces. So even if you do have multiple projects, you can still use the free tier for multiple projects. Simply create new key spaces. So you can have access to else, which is Grafana dashboard, just to show you all the queries that has been done. But it will be empty. I've just created my DB, so it will be okay. Well, I do have one node up, but of course I do not have any requests. I have just created my DB. Okay, and now if I want to connect to this database, so you can either use the driver, and this is what we will do today. So Node.js, Python, Java, C#, C++. DataStax is famous in the Cassandra world, not only to commit and create a lot of code for the Cassandra database itself, but to provide the drivers. And so here are all the drivers to interact with Cassandra. But APIs are provided as well. So REST API, GraphQL API, Document API. And so here you do have the environment variables you may want to use. Those are the parameters to use the API. And here, there, you do have multiple sample calls. So get a token and start using the API. So we won't go there today because today is Spring Data and Spring Data using Java driver. But hey, you can go there, Document API, GraphQL, REST API. They are all there for you to play. Okay. So now let's go to Java. So here is Java. What I need to do is to download the secure bundle. So download bundle, and here right-click secure connect bundle. So I noticed that my screenshot is not up to date with this very UI, but it's pretty close. So really click on Java, download secure bundle, and here just save copy link address. Okay. In my clipboard, I now have the address of this cloud secure bundle. Okay. I will now use this address to download the secure bundle in GitPod. So this time there is no magic. You need your zip to connect to Astra. So what you do is see curl-l your link slash tmp/CRUD. So let's do it. I will curl-l. Don't forget the quote, double quote. Okay, I'm pasting from my clipboard. See, double quote, and I redirect this output to /tmp/creds.zip. All right. And now I do ls just to check that the file has been downloaded and is about 12 kilobytes. Okay, 12 kilobytes. Because, you know, sometimes with timeout or firewalls or such, you may just download the page telling you that CRUD is not available. Please refresh your page. When it's done, it's done. The /tmp/crud, it's there. So let's move on. Now I think we do have everything we need to start connecting our app to Astra. All right, so first is go to src main resources application.properties. In a SpringBoot application, all variables and configurations are part of application.properties. Could be application.properties or application.yaml. SpringBoot understands both. And so what I already implemented is a way to load these key from this file and to use that to initialize the connectivity to Astra. So look at that. The key space name, if you copy paste the value, you don't have to change anything. To do user, same. To do password 1, same. Key to be filled. When it comes to the secure connect bundle, if you again copy paste /tmp/creds.zip, you're good to go. So you don't even have to change anything there. Now notice that in the Spring Boot world, everything works by convention. So really Spring Boot starter Cassandra expect keys to be spring.data.cassandra.something. And so spring.data.cassandra key space name, username, password. Those are keys expected by Spring Data Cassandra Spring Boot starter. It's a long library, but this is how the magic can happen to set up your Spring Boot app to work with Cassandra. Integration with Prometheus and Grafana for AstraDB. Under the hood, sure, because you see the Grafana, plugin, and it's based on open source solution named Cassandra. So you can go to cassandra.io, K8SSandra.io, and here you can see that Cassandra running in Kubernetes and Prometheus with Grafana is already wired. Now, when something working in Astra, can you plug your own Prometheus? I'm not sure. I need to ask to the engineering team. Maybe, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's a software as a service, so access are limited. But at the same time, here is simply Astra pushing you some metrics, for you to monitor the request. And I guess when it comes to billing, you want to have your own copy of how many requests you did against Astra. Good question. Okay, moving on. So really, I don't have to set up keys here. I can move on. And so I can try to execute Maven test in this class. So if I open this class, so src test Java, I did this. And what I do is I initialize the SQL session, which is the object to interact with Cassandra. And instead of providing contact points, as Tony mentioned before, I will provide the cloud secure bundle path, which is /tmp/creds.zip, because I use another nice feature from Spring is load values in a property file and make that available as an attribute in the class like that. So here I know I do have the path and I will simply use the path and execute that. So if everything is okay, I should be able to copy paste that and connect to Astra. Hey, okay, connection established, things are moving. Now GitPod is connected to Astra or have some way to connect to. So now we need to implement the API and we would be good to go. Connectivity is there. Okay, so exercise number 2 is create the table and the expected schema. Because if you look at your to-do application, in the Cassandra world, you will create the tables based on your queries. We always start with the application and build tables based on the queries. But if you look at the queries we need for the to-do application, it's very, very simple. You want to list all tasks, create a new task, mark a task by complete and complete. All those operations can be done with a simple ID. You can simply get by ID, save by ID, and then delete all, find all. Because those queries are very simple, you only need one table. Okay, so if you use the workflow to define a proper Cassandra data model, which is and will be different from relational, okay, so please look at the YouTube channel, some Cassandra data model courses and session there. It's very different from relational. Okay, don't try to think like relational. All right. So you use the conceptual data model, application workflow, and use some rules to go to the physical data model. And so queries, you saw that here. So I'm simply using all the rules to create the to-do task table. Using a UID as a UUID, we can be the full primary key. So both primary key and partition key, okay, for people already familiar with Cassandra. A title, which is a text, completed, which is a flag, a boolean, and the offset, which is the order of your task in the list. And so here you do have a statement in SQL, Cassandra query language, to create your table. Okay, in the key space to-do app, we will create a table named to-do task. All right. So to-do API DB UI, we're good to go. We will use the driver. Okay, contact points. I talk about that quickly. You need to download the Cloud Secure Bundle to open this two-way TLS connection between you and Astra. No more really to know. And when you open the SQL session, you will use with Cloud Secure Bundle. And this is what we did in test number 1. And in test number 2, we will create the table. So part 3.2, 3.3, this is exactly what I'm doing right now. So I will go there and execute should create expecting table. Okay, so let's see. If I go to the class create expecting table, connection established, table to do has been created, build success. So I'm again injecting all the values. I'm opening the SQL session and I'm using a statement to create something, create table and provide all the values from the table that I just show you right here. Okay. I just execute this command against Astra using the SQL session. Okay. So now if I move to SQL to Astra and go to SQL console. So remember, I told you that Astra provides you not only Cassandra, but also tools. So SQL console is one of the tools. So what I would like to do is first describe key spaces to see what are the key spaces available. Oh, I put a S as described. Okay. So one of the key space is to-do key space. So if I describe this to-do key space now, you can see that now we do have a table with to-do and exactly the schema I just showed you in the slide. And if I want to see what is in this table, I will do something like that. Select star from, I always forget the from. Okay, so it's not a recorded video, okay? It's a real demo I'm doing in front of you.
Yeah, right.
Okay. First glitch after 1 hour, okay, not bad. And it's just me, fat finger, forgetting one keyword. Okay, so we do have the table and the table is empty. Now our job is to create the Java code to fill this table. And so to do so, back to GitPod, keep doing. This output should connect the application to Astra. So here it comes. I told you Spring Data Cassandra do things in magic way. So because the Cassandra drivers is present in the class path, Spring Data Cassandra will try to create this SQL session. And what we want simply to say to Spring Data is, okay, when you build this SQL session object magically, don't forget to add this Cloud Secure bundle. And so we simply have to create a bin, Cloud SQL Session Builder Customizer. This is part of Spring Data Cassandra. And with that, when Spring Data initialize, it will use the Connect bundle. So it should be in the conf folder. So Java, new, okay. No, so Java com DataStax workshop. I create a new folder conf. I create a new classes Spring Data Java. Okay. So here it is, new file. Okay, and I will copy paste the content here. So it's a configuration class that will tell Spring Data, please use also the Cloud Secure bundle to connect to Astra. Okay. And now, because we set up Spring Data, we now can comment the exclude we did in the beginning. Remember, we said Cassandra data auto-configuration exclude, Cassandra auto-configuration exclude. Now, because we set up Spring Data, we should simply go to the main class and just drop the exclude. So up. And with that, okay, I should be able to start the application, and at startup, it will connect to Astra. Right now, it's not doing anything. That's the last part, implement the code, but only, I mean, it's not only with that, by setup Spring Data, I should now be able to go there and start my app. Oh, okay, so first a test, load context. Okay, let's just test to see if I can connect. So let's see. Okay, dev workshop, Spring, okay. Okay, test run 1, failure 0. Okay, so my app can connect to Astra. So let's go, Maven Spring Boot run. Let's go. Okay, so now the application is running, but it's still working in memory. Now we need to change the to-do repository class to use Cassandra and not in memory. So let's see what we have to do. Okay, do. This is where Spring Data come in very handy. So Spring Data is a OM framework, object mapping. You want to work only with Java object and make sure that Spring Data will save your object in the database, retrieve the object in the database, and will do what we call the marshalling, moving your object as a SQL statement and back result of a query up to an object. So Spring Data is really mapping from object to tables. It's not ORM, object relational mapping, because there is no relation in Cassandra, but it's object mapping. Okay, so now this is the persistence layer will both use the DataStax driver, the one we just used to connect to create tables, but also we'll do more and we'll do the mapping object tables. Okay, won't go into too much detail here. Spring Boot starter data Cassandra expects some keys to initialize the SQL session, as I show you already. So Spring Data Cassandra key space name, username, password, and you know this guy is just us creating the Spring Data config class and just added that on top of it. Okay, if in your Java application you already defining a SQL session bin with your own properties, Spring Data will use your bin, no problem. Spring Boot starter data Cassandra always only create the SQL session if you don't have the SQL session yourself in your configurations classes. And this is what we just did, okay? No configurations classes, so it will use those keys by convention to create the object SQL session. Okay, when it comes to mapping from entity to tables, so we will create some annotation on the to-do, it's task, but it's to-do object. Let's say, okay, in the tables we just created, UID is my primary key, and it's an ID. And for the others, string is a text, complete is a Boolean, offset is an int. I don't have anything else to say, it's enough. Now when it comes to create some queries in this table, we will extend CRUD repository, create, read, update, delete repository, all the default operation available on this table. Simply provide the bin and the primary key of the bin as generics when you extend this default CRUD repository. And there, this is where it's become very powerful. By default, all these CRUD repository already have, as the name stated, find by ID, find all, read, update, delete, CRUD, and you can add your own queries. So here is a sample. I simply add find by task ID, something like that, and I put an annotation at query. Pay attention, there is no implementation here. It's still the interface. And that the Spring Data magic that will run this interface at load time, create some CGLib proxy, so classes needed. And when you invoke this interface, remember, in version of control, you don't care about the implementation. Well, as a matter of fact, the implementation is generated by Spring Data at load time, so you don't have to bother. Which is pretty neat. Now you only need to have an object and the query you need to execute. And with that, you're good to go. So let's see what it looks like. And we will move. And then we will close the end zone with these two samples. Okay, so let's see how much time do I need to make that happen. All right, so the app is working. Let's move to part 4. Let's do part 4, which is, okay, we are in part 4. Let me close everything except the README. Let's start properly. Okay, clean, 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 clean. Okay, we're good, we're good, we're good. Okay, we start and here clear. Okay, we are good. Let's open README. I want the README as a preview, so I click here. I just drag. Okay, object mapping. So first, I need to update my to-do with to-do entity. So in previous step, we created to-do entity while not dealing with resources. Now let's annotate these to-do entity. So go here and here. So to-do entity, okay, with no annotation. So what I would like to do is, where is my guy? Okay, to-do entity and mapping that. Okay, so this is to-do entity. So what I do, I using at table, okay, to-do entity. It is a best practice to define all the keys as environment as constant here, because then if you want to rename one column, you will only have to change these constant. So here, primary key, and then I put the name and the type of each column. Okay, I updated the to-do entity. I now created a new repository to have all operation to interact with this to-do entity. So I think in in the to-do folder, create that guy.
Hey, Cedric, I do have a question for you here from Subra in YouTube. For Git by ID, do we need to use the query as there is a default implementation in JPA repo?
No, we don't need the query. The query was there just to illustrate you in the slide what is possible. But look at that. Right, look, I'm building this repo and the repo is empty. As you spotted, I have no need to provide any query because it's provided by default. Beginning is omitted. Oh, geez, come on. And so that's, or you can go with the implementation. No, I will stay with that. And you know what? And unit test of the implementation. Oh, geez. I cannot copy paste. Oh, really? You know, I'm lazy. I will go to part 5 and I will go and pick these classes. You know, keep lazy, go to the next. Okay, it's to do, and I want this guy.
Hey, that's what those are for, right? I mean,
yeah, so, you know, I didn't put the import and package, but hey, you know what? Okay, so this is my guy. All right. So as stated by Subrajit, there is no need to provide the, it's already there, part of the Cassandra repository. Okay, yada, yada, yada. I don't want to use the simple Cassandra repository because I don't need to operation with SQL session. And so this is, we now want to leverage SpringBoot to initial console and Spring. The following code, copy code to replace Todo-Backend Spring Data Application test. So where is my test? TodoApplication Spring Data. Okay, this guy. And I should remove and change with these. Todo-Backend Spring Data Application test. In the same, yes, the same name class. So it's a Spring Boot test. Okay, so it will load everything from Spring. Oh, it's already there. But okay, let's do that. Should save task when save. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a new entity using the constructor, and I save. Okay, so let's see. I will now execute the test. So let's see what I miss. If I don't miss anything, save in Cassandra with the save. 0, which means now if I look at my table, I do have the record because Spring Data with the save just now I've created the record in the database. So I've switched back to Apple and now my data is there. So I'm pretty happy because I do have a CRUD repository that can interact with this table. The last frontier is to map or to connect this repo to the API. So let's see. We did that. Import class definition, adapt the REST controller. Yeah, you know what? Show me the correction. Okay, to do REST controller. So what we do here, we inject the to-do repository classes in the controller, and instead of using the hash map, I'm using the whole repo.findById. It's all included in Spring Data. So if I go there, update my to-do REST controller with these values, hopefully I will save. Now if I start my app and run my unit test, my specification test again, it will work as expected and create some stuff into, so can I just Maven, start the app and will be happy. So, okay, I'm starting the app and I will execute the unit test here. There, I know. So now I'm executing the unit test, but instead of updating the hash map in memory, I'm updating the database. So if I go to Astra, now the tasks are there and created in real time. And now we do have the full app working. So if I go to, let's say, the client now, okay, I do have blah, 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 okay. Let's see, I want a new task, Cedric, and a new task, workshop. And if I go to Astra and list the task in my tables, now see, I do have Cedric and workshop. So with that, congratulations. With a UI on top of it to interact with Cassandra using Spring Data Cassandra. Okay, so we just did all the layers, all the steps from the it's only the branch 4. In branch 5, what we do is we simply add some documentation on top of the API. I won't go into the detail. That's just a bonus exercise for you all, because with the, let's say, 10 minutes remaining, we will now play games and such. So, you know, David, you talk about, this is what we did. Astra is running Cassandra, and we use the drivers used by Spring Data, used by SpringBoot. Okay, this is exactly what we did today. In Astra, we do have the Stargate. So not only we do have the driver SQL, but also REST API, document API, and GraphQL API. And if I put everything in Astra, this is what it looks like. In Astra, you do have REST API, DocAPI, GraphQL, and the drivers you can use with Spring Data and SpringBoot, and the DevOps API. Okay, and you know, what I'm currently coding, you know, during my evening, just SDK to implement a client in Java to interact with those API. And for like that, you don't have to read the API documentation. You simply use the SDK. It will be available pretty soon. All right. Thank you for attending. If you like this content, you can, you know, go. So either use the link provided by Jack in the Slack right now, just to subscribe to all the events that's coming. You can also go to datastax.com/workshops and see what's coming next week and the week after. So as you can see, next week we will do the serverless game and then we will do Cassandra, Kubernetes, and Quarkus. So
yeah, shameless plug for next week is Jamstack, right? We're going to do Jamstack, where it's all serverless across the board. I mentioned that document, a document DB on Cassandra through Stargate, actually. We're going to be doing all that next week. So we are moving over into the JavaScript world with React and Redux and such. I know this is Java Crew. I just probably spoke blasphemy. But if you are interested in that, please come, right? Because again, these are free. It's free information.
Go to the registration page just to see that super cool animation and video. Just teasing you.
Hey, Ryan did a great job on
that. Thank you very much for being with us today. If you like, subscribe, and otherwise, see you soon.
See you, everybody. And as always, don't forget to click that subscribe button and ring that bell to get notifications for all of our future upcoming workshops.
Imagine a being gifted with powers from the goddess of Cassandra, who grew those powers until she could multiply at will, move with limitless speed, and unmask hidden knowledge. With those powers, she was able to fully understand the connectedness of the world. What she saw was a world in need of understanding. From that day forward, she sought to bestow her powers on all who came into contact with her, empowering them to achieve wondrous feats.